Jake Guentzel's market has finally been revealed, and this is going to benefit the Penguins regardless of what happens, especially if he does end up leaving. Now, we'll explain why this is the case here in this video, but before we do, we notice that 78% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel, so if you're looking for a spot to get all your news surrounding the NHL and the Chicago Blackhawks, you're in the right spot. Make sure to hit the sub button, stay a while so you don't miss out on any of the major news around the NHL, and you can stay right up to date with every single bit of it. But like I said, Jake Guentzel's market has seemingly been revealed in a Pierre LeBrun tweet, along with a few other articles that we have here today. Now, earlier, Pierre LeBrun put this tweet out. The sense is the Penguins, after the road trip, will have a very clear sense of what needs to be done before Friday's deadline and charting a course accordingly, exploring all options to view to bolster the club in the future. Hearing there are 6+ legit suitors for Guentzel, Vancouver and Vegas being among some of the top. You know, don't specifically say among the top, but in my mind, I really do believe that they, are 1 and 2 for most people and in most cases. But Jake Guentzel is a guy who, is playing very well this season, is, I would say, one of the players that is nearly 100% guaranteed to get moved, and the Penguins are going to want to do this regardless of what they get, for a reason that we're going to be talking about here in a bit. But, Nick, what do you think about those two teams in specific here, being likely the top two teams, and any other team that you have for Jake Guentzel? What do you think about those?
Well, if you thought Vancouver was done after Lindholm, I guess you're wrong. I mean, that would be another huge move to add to that Vancouver already potent offense. I mean, you can never have too much of that, but it's not every day that this, a 40-goal scorer, 2-time 40-goal scorer, 3-time 30-goal scorer is on the trade market. It's not very often you get a player like Jake Guentzel, and it seems like it's developing very quickly, with how this is going down here, because Pittsburgh was in it for a long time. They were kind of 4 to 6 points out around there. And then they just all of a sudden weren't. It's been going all downhill for Pittsburgh recently. We'll talk about that more, what's to come for Pittsburgh later. But Vancouver for Guentzel, I really like. Vegas is, I think, somewhere that's probably more likely because of the injury they've had to Mark Stone. And he might magically come back in the first game of the playoffs. You never know what's going to happen there. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but you never know who can magically heal like Wolverine. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, those who are most likely, but there are some other teams that are definitely in the mix. Pierre LeBrun says 6 legit suitors, and one of those being, in my opinion, and to the opinion of many from NHL Watcher here, the Edmonton Oilers. However, they're not the most likely destination for Jake Guentzel, which I guess you could say is a bit of a good thing for the Oilers. I don't think in this situation you really want to be the favorite, per reporters, per the books. Rather, you want to be that sneaky team that is really putting in a solid offer, so you don't let yourself down, you don't let your fans and the team down if you don't get them. I think the Edmonton Oilers definitely do have a serious offer that they can put in for Jake Guentzel. They don't have as many prospects as some of these other teams that may be going out there, but this team with Jake Guentzel, I think, would be incredible. You can see what Zach Hyman's doing there. You can see what Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is doing there. I think that if you put Jake Guentzel in that market, in that system, he could turn out even better than he's been this season, even better than he's been his whole career. So this is another option, but, Nick, do you want to briefly say what you think about the Edmonton Oilers here as well, and what other possible teams could be in the mix?
Yeah, I think the Edmonton Oilers are another team that's oh my God, if he's on that line with Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman, that team is another formidable force to come in the playoffs out of the Western Conference. There's a lot of teams in the Western Conference, and I think it's more likely he does get moved to the Western Conference if he moves, because the 3 teams we talked about so far are all in the Western Conference, and those are the teams that are looking for a scoring winger, I think mostly, right? Another team I would also think might have a chance would be Colorado. Considering that Pittsburgh wants mostly players or prospects instead of picks to help the team in the next couple of years, because I guess they don't really want to get rid of Sidney Crosby, but they might still want to be competitive. And to get Jake Guentzel moved would be something I think they want to do, because if you're going to lose him, you might as well get something in return. We've talked about that before. If you let him walk, what are you doing? You're not getting anything back for a 2-time 40-goal scorer, the best scorer on the market right now. So I think it's more likely that he does get moved. And another team, like I said, Colorado, they've got Sam Girard is someone that definitely could be moved. They still got a pretty decent top 4 with Manson, Byram, Taves, and Makar without Sam Girard there. I think that's a player that could get moved. Also to help with the cap as well. Like I know it'd be probably pretty easy to maneuver with the cap with him only making $6 million. You could probably take it down to 3 or even 1.5 if you involve a third team. And Colorado's got $2.2 million right now, I believe, in cap space. And that's another team I think could definitely be in there. It's another Western Conference team. Surprise.
Yeah, I also think the Penguins are going to move him regardless, like I said, but I think it will be in the West. They probably don't really want to see him again, knowing that a player like Jake Guentzel will definitely tear your team apart when playing back against his former team. But you're probably wondering why this is good for the Penguins, regardless of where he goes, whether it be to any of these teams or somewhere else. And that is pretty much just a pretty crazy image that we've seen here on Twitter from a Penguins fan, it appears to seem like. That the salary cap is estimated to be $87.7 million next season. You can see there, Reichel, Smith, Guentzel, Rust, Graves, and Nedeljkovic. All 6 of those players likely, to be maybe having a different contract next season or gone from the team. That is just over $27 million in cap space if they are all moved, if they do not return or whatnot. And on top of that, $3.97, nearly $4 million from Carter's and Harkin's contract expiring. That could easily be nearly $31 million in cap space used to revamp the squad and potentially even re-sign Jake Guentzel in the offseason, which I don't think will be the case, but you never really know. This is really going to be a major retool for the Penguins if they do end up doing this. I think that's kind of what they're aiming towards. I really think that, like you said, Nick, the players in the deals that are going to be returning are going to be used to revamp this team, to kind of retool, not rebuild, retool this team while they still have Sidney Crosby, Erik Karlsson on their books, Kris Letang, Evengni Malkin. They kind of want to give this core another cup and give Erik Karlsson one as well. And I think that doing this is the right move. I'll put that screenshot up there once again. That all these players there very well could be traded. Nedeljkovic is kind of a sneaky goalie there. Ryan Graves is a solid defenseman. The other 4, some very solid depth forwards. Maybe even could play a first or second line if you need them to. I guess it'll really all depend on what the market is looking like near the trade deadline, or if, similar to last season, the trade deadline day technically started a few days early, and on trade deadline day, there was very, very little left that was capable of being traded. So it'll be really interesting to see what the Penguins do in this situation. I do think that a trade for any group of NHL caliber players will benefit the Penguins more than if they do end up keeping Jake Guentzel and eventually, ultimately, losing him in the offseason. So, Nick, what do you think about that tweet there and the whole situation that if any of these players do end up going, as well as the expiring contracts, what they may do in that situation?
Well, I think maybe one of those guys gets moved. I think definitely one of those guys gets moved. Maybe 2, a maximum of 3. This is not something, you're not going to trade away 6 players with those big contracts and well-known guys within the matter of 4 or 5 days now.
Yep.
I think the Guentzel trade definitely happens within 48 hours if it does happen at all. That's a bold call for me, but I don't think that it's something you can negotiate in the matter of the last day. I think it's too big of a move to get done in the last day. We don't see trades like that happen in the last day anymore. It's definitely going to happen because teams are going to try to get it done before the deadline. You don't want to risk not moving them if you're Pittsburgh. You got to get a guy like Guentzel out of there unless you're going to re-sign him, which in the case that they do re-sign him, they're going to have to move at least 2 of those guys, I would think. So I definitely think this is the right move for the Penguins to revamp it because Sidney Crosby does not want to play anywhere else. I think he's made that pretty clear to the management without saying it out in public. I don't know if he's really said anything about it in public, but he's definitely told management, I don't want to play anywhere else. I want another chance to win. I'm going to give you guys that chance to get me a team that can help me win. And I think that's how it's going to go. I think they're going to do exactly that.
Yeah, Kyle Davidson and the Penguins are going to have some very busy next few days if they want to make that happen, make Crosby want to stay, and go for one more run with the team they have now. But I do believe the Penguins are going to be very active over the next few days. Like you said, whether it may be 1 to 4 of those guys, I don't believe it's going to be all. That would be more considered a rebuild at that point than I do believe if they got rid of all of them names that were there. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do, especially with Jake Guentzel. We know the market. We know, kind of what's going to be the return going back to Pittsburgh in this scenario. So we'll see what happens over the next few days, and we'll be keeping you guys updated the whole time right here. So make sure to hit the sub button. Join us along this road to the trade deadline. A lot of exciting stuff is going to be coming over the next few days that you will not want to miss. But that's all we got. Make sure to give the video a like if you did enjoy. But that's all we got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.